so much for joining me today for our Zoom virtual chat, Kirsten.
Sure.
And you're the National Insight Manager at Herman Miller, and you're also doing a PhD in health in the workplace. Is that right?
Yeah, so research and learning is probably my hobby or my passion, I suppose. And I have over the years been enjoying all the research that comes from Herman Miller. And that was part of the reason for taking on a doctorate.
So today we're chatting about workplaces post-COVID, and specifically how workplaces can bounce back in the post-COVID environment. So I guess my first question to you is the workplace as we know it a relic of the past?
No, I don't think so. I think it's going to be part of the workplace equation. So pre-COVID, most of our time was spent, for most people, they did go to an office workplace. And now I think we'll see a more distributed model where we might have a few days in the office, maybe working in a neighbourhood co-working centre or working from home, depending on people's setup at home. So I think the office, really it hasn't changed much. I know we think it's changed a lot, but when you look back over the last couple of decades, there's been some different styles and strategies implemented in workplace. But at a physical level, yes, the desks might have got a bit smaller, etc., but it hasn't changed significantly. So I don't think this pandemic is going to see, a revolution in workplace design. It's more probably balancing out a distributed model.
Mm. And, you were talking about sort of the desks getting bigger and sort of a lot more spacing and sanitization, that sort of thing. Are there any sort of knee-jerk reactions that employers and designers should avoid?
Well, initially when, let's talk back to April this year, we had a lot of the Herman Miller customers contact us, that are global organisations and want to put Perspex screens everywhere. That's an immediate knee jerk. Okay, if we have a physical barrier, that will reduce or eliminate the spread of COVID. There wasn't actually any evidence to suggest that would improve or change outcomes. Our concern was, of course, the plastic or Perspex can't be recycled, so it'll all end up in landfill come, a year down the track. And also in terms of, at Herman Miller, we really believe in that sort of human-centered approach. So no one wants to go back to an office with plastic screens everywhere.
Mm. And we were saying before, it's the post-COVID workplace is going to be quite a study in contrasts, because there's going to be those people who want the social interaction with their colleagues and those who are a little bit more concerned about the sanitation, those who like working at home compared to those who can't work from home. So how do employers and designers meet all these sort of conflicting criteria?
Well, I think that's what that's come out of my doctoral research. Is I think just having these as separate streams can no longer exist, where we have, interior designers or workplace consultants in one stream. We might have some crossover with HR or OH&S, but there really is a need for a much more holistic view. One of the things I found is that, you might implement physical elements such as stairs, for example, to improve people's, daily steps or get people moving about the office. But without actually the health promotion part of that and the education, why it is a good idea to take the stairs, what are the benefits to you, then that is lost. And again, I have got some really good data on that principle alone. Interesting to note that the World Health Organization see the workplace as a key part of health promotion in the 21st century. People spend a lot of time in the office or in their workplace. It's the ideal place to start helping people, learn and about health, and promoting those, more healthy environments. So I think that it doesn't really answer your question, but I think overall we need to look more broadly, and start, yes, we might need to adjust the physical design of the workplace so we can achieve the safe guidelines, but we also need to then align it with HR policies. What are the flexible policies? How are they going to work? Now organisations are not just dealing with the office workplace, but the workplaces at home.
And interestingly, you were saying that employees, and I guess that's something to be considered for architects and designers who are employers, to be considering how their staff is working from home, because that's going to be a big aspect of the post-COVID office space. So what can employers do in that area to make sure they're meeting their requirements?
So if we set within the actual physical workplaces setting good standard and good practice, that if we can't control the physical environment in someone's home, at least we can establish some good practice in the office that they can conduct at home. So for example, you might have, in their lunch hour, encourage them to go for a walk in their neighbourhood. Or if they don't have a height adjustable desk at home, the whole point of, moving about every hour. So really, maybe it might be a little app or something that will promote them to, so if the practice is created in the office environment, like we need to move every hour, whether it's a cup of tea or whatever it is, talk to a colleague, then conducting that practice at home, some of those behaviours set can work at home, that might mitigate some of the ergonomic problems people might have at home. That's, as an example.
And is a first step for interior designers and architects working on future projects to really consult those people who are working on organisational policy and employee needs, where they wouldn't have done so before the pandemic?
Definitely, and they in the past, yes, depending on the project size, there has been involvement, of course, from HR and other executives within a workplace strategy. But I think what often happens is that they might be part of the initial conversations and then they drop off, and then the workplace and the interior design takes on its own momentum and start the built project. But maybe if they're involved at a more, holistic level and ongoing through the process. So, for example, if the company decides they're going to have quite flexible floor plates and encourage people to move about, whether that's activity-based working or some other different way of working, that therefore any HR or OH&S policy is also reflected of that.
So what sort of initial actionable steps can employers and designers start making sort of right now?
Well, firstly, they need to just at a basic level, as we've talked about, address the safe standards. So I think at the current thinking from the regulations from the government, it's 1 per 4 square metres, I think, and 1.5 metres in terms of desking apart. So making sure that at a basic level complies, and people are having practice in terms of, maybe temperature checking, or they might be wearing masks. Our organisation, we're still wearing masks at work. So whatever the company and the government policy is, that's just a basic. But again, that issue of making it comfortable and supportive. People have been comfortable at home. They have the tools they need. Leesman's survey has shown that people's technology is often better at home than it is at work. So, to get people back, the organisations might have to try quite hard to make that happen in the first instance. So yeah, maybe yes, it's safe. It has to be comfortable, and then we overlay. That's an immediate, physical design. And then in terms of, again, the policy part of that equation is maybe working with people to co-design the flexibility policy. Flexibility has always been limited to quite a small group, predominantly women, maybe they have children, etc. But now many have discovered flexibility and the benefit to their life. So maybe it's co-designing policy around that will, again, you know, there's a give and take, isn't there? So come back to the office for a couple of days a week, and maybe there's a policy that we can work that you can, you know, make your life more balanced.
And one final question, Kirsten. What's one thing that you would love to see designers in the workplace do more?
I think from my research, the number one thing is actually getting people moving about the office. Spending the design budget where it counts. There's lots of things that are nice to have, but do they actually really make a difference? So when making decisions, they need to be based on evidence, and really making sure that we design and allocate budgets, you know, and time and energy where it actually will make a difference to people's health and well-being. Ultimately, you know, we all want to feel healthy and be healthy. That, I think if that comes first, then all the things that organizations want, but in terms of, you know, better productivity, better collaboration, etc., will come naturally if we start with, you know, with the foundation of good health based on evidence.
Well, thank you so much to chatting to ADR with us today, Kirsten. Can our readers find some more information or some of your research on the Herman Miller website?
We do have some information in terms of what our approach is to post-COVID workplace. And that was what I was talking about in the early conversation about the more distributed model, that the office will still be part of the equation, but maybe it'll be, you know, neighbourhood or co-working plus home. And in terms, if they'd like to, in terms of the health part of the equation, they can contact me directly. That's something that I'm obviously really passionate about and believe is really, really important. So yeah, they're probably the best sources of information.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for chatting to us today.